Good morning, class! Good morning, Earthlings!
We are your teachers for today. I am Teacher JC.
I am Teacher Ron. And I am Teacher Roga. Before we start our discussion, may I request everyone to please stand for the opening prayer.
Alright, thank you everyone. You may now take your seats. Before we start, can I please check attendance? Miss Secretary, Miss Borlago, is there anybody absent? Alright, a round of applause, please.
So for our classroom rules, I only have 3 classroom rules. The first rule is that when you want to answer, please raise your hand and do not answer in chorus. Number 2, please respect everyone. And number 3, please organize yourself. So is that understood, class?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Okay, so my dear Earthlings, what was our topic last meeting? Saranya?
So, good morning, sirs. The last time that we had discussed was about Chapter 7, Other Worlds, and Introduction to the Solar System.
Very good. That's right. We talked about, in the last meeting, we talked about Chapter 7, all about the solar system. Once again, good morning, class.
Good morning, sir.
How are you today?
We're fine.
Okay, it's nice to hear that you are all good today because we believe that your condition right now might be a good start for a new and productive learning. And I can see that you are a little bit tired, so let's have an icebreaker first. So may I request everyone to please stand up so that you can restore your energy.
In our icebreaker, we prepared a magical box, and it is called the jukebox. So we will prepare a song for you that we will dance and sing together. So it will be led by Miss Amores. So I will be giving her the honor of handling this magical box.
Okay, class, and do you know the song? We love here, it is our planet. Do you know the song?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, so we need to sing that song, and we only need to sing the chorus twice. So did you get it?
Yes.
Okay, so let us start.
Stand, everyone.
So may I request everyone to please stand. Let's dance with me. Okay, dance everyone.
In relation to that wonderful song, we prepared an activity for you. And it is called the Acrostic Earth. So right now, I'll be requesting 5 students, 5 little earthlings to come in front and define Earth through these initials. So you will define Earth starting from the letter E, A, R, T, and H. So I know that all of you are familiar with the activity called acrostic home. So just like that, you will be defining Earth based on your prior knowledge on what is present of Earth and what is its characteristics. So I will call on 5 little Earthlings to define Earth with those initials. So may I call on Earthling number 5, Miss Rhea Lagos. Is she present? Yes, she is. And Earthling number 7, Jana Luz Ferrer. Yes, all right. And Earthling number 2, Miss Angela Magaya. And Earthling number 8, which is Miss Bordado Rizal. And our Earthling number 10, which is Brittany Rose Pizarro. Alright? So Miss Lagos, you're assigned with the letter E. So how will you define Earth with the letter starting with E?
I would define it as ecological diversity.
Alright, very good. So you are saying that Earth has a lot of ecosystems.
Yes.
Alright, very good. A round of applause, guys. Alright, Miss Jana, so how about the letter A?
Air and atmosphere.
Well, that's correct. So the Earth also has its own atmosphere that protects us from the sun. Thank you. Alright, Miss Magaya, how about letter R?
For me, letter R stands for days around the sun.
Alright, perfect. So the Earth is continuously rotating on its axis. Okay. How about with the letter T?
I think that it is
Okay, so the Earth has the movements of its tectonic plates. Okay, very good. And lastly, Miss Zora, how about the letter H? Very good. So among all the planets in the solar system, Earth is the only planet that sustains life. Very good. So here are all of the definitions that wonderful Earthlings have given. So with E has ecological diversity, A for air and atmosphere, R as it rotates around sun, T for the tectonic activity, and H it is a habitable planet. So with all those activities that we have performed earlier, what do you think is our new topic for today's discussion?
Planet Earth.
That's correct. Our new lesson for today is all about chapter 8, which is Earth as a planet. So may I now request Mr. Romel to give the learning objectives.
Thank you very much, Teacher Gracie. So at this juncture, before we start our lesson proper, let me discuss to you the different objectives for today's lesson. So, at the end of the lesson, the students will be able to 1. Describe the components of Earth's interior and explain how scientists determine its structure. Number 2. Differentiate between the Earth's various atmospheric layers. Number 3. Describe the chemical composition of our atmosphere. Number 4. Create a diagram showing an example of the Earth's rift and subduction zones on a 1/4 illustration board. And lastly, suggest ways on alleviating the negative impact of human activity on Earth's atmosphere and ecology. Now I'll give the floor to Mr. JC.
Alright, now let's talk about Earth in the global perspective. So here we have is our solar system. And we all know that Earth is the third planet from the Sun, starting with Mercury, Venus, and Earth. And it is inside the asteroid belt. Earth is a medium-sized planet with a diameter of 12,760 kilometers. As one of the terrestrial planets, it's primarily composed of heavy elements like silicon, iron, and oxygen. Very different from our sun and the stars, which are primarily composed of light elements like hydrogen and helium. Moreover, Earth has a nearly circular orbit, which gives its temperature warm enough to sustain water on its surface. And Earth is the only planet in our solar system that is neither too hot nor too cold, but just right for the development of life as we know it. Now, Earthlings, have a look at this image in the television. So here's an image of Earth from space taken by Apollo 17 astronaut. So this is one of the rare images of a full Earth. So as you can see here, it's very round. And they call this image as the blue marble. So now let's talk about the different layers of the Earth. I know that everyone already knows about this. So to have a better picture, I actually prepared for you an egg, a hard-boiled egg. So So here, let's imagine that this is the not so perfect Earth, not so perfectly circular Earth, rather. So I have here to place it in two eggs. So the first two earthlings that will be able to touch the egg will be theirs. Alright, so Miss Bordavo and Miss Shona got the egg. Okay, so now for my question. Before you get that prize, I have two questions. So here is the egg. So based on your prior knowledge, which part of the egg is the different layers of the earth? So may I request Ms. Bordavo to show which is which?
One is core.
And what is the core in this?
Egg.
Oh, red, the egg yolk. Okay, the other layers?
The mantle.
What is the mantle?
Egg white.
Egg white. And what is the crust? Eggshell. That's correct. Round of applause, please. Okay. That egg is yours now.
Yeah, thank you.
Now for my question, Miss Deborah.
Yes.
From the egg, the illustration here, which is the thinnest layer and which is the thickest layer?
The eggshell, or which is the crust, is the thinnest layer, and the thickest layer is the mantle,
Which is?
which is the egg white.
That's correct. Another round of applause for you. Alright, now let's check in here if it's correct. Okay, so both of them are correct. So the crust is the outermost layer, followed by the mantle, and then the core. So to discuss it further, we have here the different key points about the different layers. So the crust is first. That is the topmost layer and which we are situated, which we live on. So the crust is what is very known to us, and it is actually divided into two, and that is the oceanic crust and the continental crust. The oceanic crust covers 55% of the Earth's surface, primarily submerged under oceans about 6 kilometers thick, composed of basalts, or what the super cold lava that had hardened after it has erupted or ejected from on the surface. On the other hand, continental crust covers only 45%, and the thickness is 20 to 70 kilometers, composed of predominantly of granite. So again, oceanic crust are composed of basalt, while the continental crust is composed of granite. And the total mass of the Earth's crust in the entire Earth is only 0.3%. So it's actually very small. It's the smallest layer of the Earth because it didn't even went up to 1%, but only 0.3% of the total mass. Now let's proceed with the mantle. So the mantle is the largest part of the solid Earth. So again, it is also the thickest layer, extending from the base of the crust to a depth of 2,900 kilometers. More or less solid, which means it is semi-solid, but can be formed and flow slowly at high temperatures and pressures. So the mantle is actually divided into two. It is the upper mantle and the lower mantle. Let's talk about first the upper mantle, which is the one that is directly beneath the crust. And when there is too much movement of the molten composition of the different rocks and metals, it will be ejected outside the crust, and that is the upper mantle. On the other hand, the lower mantle is beneath the upper mantle. And the density increases downward from about 3.5 grams of cubic centimeters to over 5 grams per cubic centimeters due to compression. So as we go deeper, the density of the composition of the mantle also increases. And now let's talk about the last or the innermost layer, which is the core. So the core is a dense metallic substance located beneath the mantle. Diameter of 7,000 kilometers, larger than the entire planet Mercury. And the outer core is generally liquid, while the innermost part, which is the inner core, is likely solid, composed of primarily iron, nickel, and sulfur, compressed to a very high density. Now I have a question to you, Earthlings. Why do you think that the core is very hot? Do you have any idea? Okay, so actually, the reason behind that is because of the leftover radioactive decay that is present during the planetary formation. And that radioactive decay produces extreme heat, which makes the outer core liquid, while the inner core as solid because of the compression of the gravitational force that is acting on the planet Earth. So that is the reason why. Now let's talk about the advantages or the benefits that we get from the Earth's core. So actually, the Earth's core is responsible for the protection of our life in Earth, because as the different materials, like the different metals in the outer core moves due to the movement of the Earth's orbit, it will generate electric current and therefore develop magnetic fields. These magnetic fields will clash together, forming a large-scale magnetic field that protects us from the heat of the sun or the solar radiation. Because imagine if there is no protection and the extreme heat of the sun we're experiencing today, how much more the heat that we will be experiencing, right? So as you can see here, the solar radiation is dispersed farther away from the planet itself. So to have a clear picture of how the magnetic field works on our planet, it looks like this. So the magnetic field will act as a repellent of the different gases as well as solar radiation. It repels away from the planet itself. So here the different particles, the harmful gases and solar radiation are being dispersed, not directly into the Earth's atmosphere. So that is the main goal of the magnetic field. So we can say that the Earth's composition is very important, that we should learn about it to know how does it work and what are the things that is going on inside our planet. Alright? Okay, so is there any questions, little Earthlings?
None so far.
Okay, if that's it, let's proceed to the next topic. May I request Mr. Teacher Ron to talk about the next topic.
Now that we are done discussing about the global perspective of the planet Earth, let us proceed to another subtopic of our discussion for today. But before that, let us have an activity first. So in this activity, I will give you a riddle and you are going to answer it. So this riddle will serve as your basis on our next subtopic. So here is the riddle. I'm divided into pieces that floats and shift. Boundaries collide, causing a rift. Earth's puzzle in constant motion and rust. What am I? So what do you think is the answer? Anyone? Yes, Rafi?
So I think the answer is crust.
Okay, very good. You got it right. The answer is crust. So our next subtopic is the Earth's crust. Let us now discover the Earth's crust in more details. The Earth's crust is a dynamic place. Volcanic eruption, soil erosion, and large-scale movements of the continent have shaped the Earth's crust throughout centuries. And because of this, many geologists say that the Earth is an active planet. So the crust is the outer layer or the outer shell of a terrestrial planet. It is the layer in which different living things, different living organisms, and the materials that are used for survivability exist. So the Earth's crust is divided into two parts, the oceanic crust and the continental crust. So let us explain first the oceanic crust. So the oceanic crust is the part of Earth's crust that underlies our ocean. So it is thinner than the continental crust and usually around 6 kilometers thick. So the continental crust is basically composed of dense rocks and oceanic basalt. Next is the continental crust. So this is the part of the Earth that makes up our continents. So the continental crust is thicker compared to the oceanic crust, and it makes up for about 60 kilometers thick compared to the oceanic crust. But the main thing is that when it comes to percentage on surface, the oceanic crust is much larger than the continental crust. The Earth is really an interesting place because early geologists studied the surface of the Earth as how the different geological features, the different shapes of the Earth have existed and shaped throughout centuries. And that's why they studied these types of rocks because they believe that rocks holds an evidence inside them that could be a big use for the explanation of the history of the Earth. So, throughout their different experimentations and analyzations, they concluded that there are three major types of rocks. The first one is the igneous rocks, sedimentary rocks, and metamorphic rocks. So let us explain first on what is igneous rocks. So basically, igneous rocks are the types of rocks that are formed when a magma cools down or hardens. Most igneous rocks are hard and low layers, and the common examples are granite and obsidian. So that is igneous rocks. Now let us proceed to the sedimentary rocks. So sedimentary rocks are those types of rocks that are formed through the shells, sands, dust, and the different particles that are comparted by wind or air and is cemented together without breaking. And common examples of sedimentary rocks are sandstone, limestone, and coal. And also, sedimentary rocks are crumbly and is layered. Then the last type of rock is the metamorphic rock. So from the word metamorphic, meaning to change in form. Metamorphic rock are those types of rocks that is being created through a high pressure, wherein the sedimentary and igneous rocks are being changed, whether in a physical or chemical form. And the common examples of metamorphic rocks are slates and marbles. So that are the different types of rocks. One of the most important factors that contributes to the history of our Earth is the formation of the different geologic features and the shaping of the Earth's crust. And because of that, ancient scientists gained an interest on studying the Earth's crust. And then, let us define the geology. So geology is a study of the Earth's crust and its processes that have shaped its surface throughout history. So geology is a process wherein the ancient scientists studies about the Earth's crust. And because of their studies, they create a conclusion about the plate tectonics. So the plate tectonics is the theory that describes that the Earth is composed of various shells, and that shells is called as the tectonic plates. The theory of plate tectonics states that the different plates on the crust is constantly moving, and this results in the different boundaries that is being discovered by the early geologists. So these are the three major plate boundaries. So the first is the divergent boundaries, next is the convergent, lastly is the transform fault boundaries, are known as the transform boundaries. So let us explain first on what is the divergent boundaries. Divergent boundaries is when two plates move away from each other, creating a gap where a new crust is formed. So let's take a look at this diagram. So this is an example of a divergent boundaries. As what you can see, these two plates move apart from each other, and this creates a gap wherein this gap is the new crust, or this creates convergent boundaries. So this type of boundary is when two plates move towards each other, sometimes creating mounting or causing one plate to go one another. So this is an image of a convergent boundary. So as what you can see, this plate goes here and this plate goes the same here. So they are moving towards each other. So because this plate is much denser compared to this plate, so this plate submerged and is buried under the ground and goes to the mantle. While there are also other cases that when two plates meet each other, they create a mounting range. So next is transform boundaries. So this is when two plates slide past each other, which can cause earthquake. So this is an image of a transform fault boundaries. So as what you can see, the two plates slide past each other. So this phenomena is the main cause of earthquakes and fault lines. So in order for you to understand, imagine this is a separate plate. So in transform fault boundaries, these two plates slide past each other. So when they slide past each other, they can create earthquakes and large fault lines. So that are different types of plate interaction. Again, divergent boundaries, convergent boundaries, and transform boundaries. We believe that understanding these different types of plate interactions is important in our daily lives. So we created a dance rule so that you can remember it effectively. So let's go first to divergent boundaries. So the move is here. 1, 1. Then next is for convergent boundaries. So 1, 2, 1, 2. Then lastly is for transform boundaries. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So let's begin. May I request my beatboxers? In 3, 2, 1, go! Divergence, 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 boundaries, convergence, 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 boundaries, transform, 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 boundaries, divergence, convergence, transform, boundaries. Now let us proceed to the geological consequences of plate interactions. So the first one is the rift zones. So a rift zone is a place where the Earth's crust is being pulled apart, creating a gap or a valley. So from this definition of rift zone, what do you think is the main cause of rift zones? Yes, very good. The divergent boundaries. So let's take a look at this picture. So this is the rift zones. So as what you can see, these two plates here moves in opposite direction, creating a gap or a valley. Next is the subduction zones. So subduction zones is a place where one tectonic plate is being pushed under another. So from this geologic feature, what do you think is the cause of this geologic feature? Okay, very good. The convergent boundary. So let's take a look at this diagram. So here you can see that the plate here moves upward while this this plate moves downward. So because this plate is much denser compared to this plate, so it's submerged downward. So that is the subduction zone. Then, mountain building. This is a process where land is forced upward to create mountains, usually because two tectonic plates pushing against each other. And you might wonder, I mentioned this earlier, yes, in convergent boundaries. As what I've said earlier, when there are cases in convergent boundaries, when two plates move towards each other, they create a mountain range. Next is volcanoes. So volcanoes is a place on the Earth's surface where molten rock magma escapes. This usually happens when the pressure from the Earth's interior builds up and causes eruption. So in this geological feature, what do you think is the main reason, is the main cause of this? Very good. The divergent boundaries. So the divergent boundaries is the split of the two plates, and when these two plates split apart, they create a ridge, and the magma goes out, and then it creates volcanoes. There are also cases that in convergent boundaries, a volcano will be created because the less denser plate that is being subducted under the less denser plate will be melted, and the melted plate will go out, and then it will become a volcano. Lastly is the fault zones. So this is a place where the Earth's crust has broken or cracked due to the stress and strain of the movement of tectonic plates. So this geologic feature is mainly caused by the transform fault boundaries, wherein two plates slide past each other. And as I've mentioned earlier, when these two plates slide past each other, this creates a larger fault lines and even a cause of earthquakes. So that are the geological consequences of plate interactions. And now, I will give the hand to Mr. Romel to explain the rest of the subtopics.
So thank you very much, Sir Ronald. So at this juncture, I will now discuss the third part of our topic, which is Earth's atmosphere. Once again, I am Teacher Romel. Before we start our discussion, let us first define what is an atmosphere. So, the atmosphere is defined as an ocean of air enveloping or encapsulating Earth. So the atmosphere has a pressure of 1 bar per square centimeter, or it is equivalent to 1.03 kilograms per square centimeter. The total mass of Earth's atmosphere is about 5 by 10 to the power of 18 kilograms. If we put that into perspective, we can say that it is a very large number. But so that we can relate to it, the mass of the Earth's atmosphere is less than the mass of our hair to our body. So basically, it is just a small part or a small mass of the overall mass of Earth. Next, let us continue to the structures of the atmosphere. So as you can see, we have different layers of the atmosphere, and we will discuss each layer. Let us start with the lowest layer of the atmosphere. So we have the troposphere. So the troposphere is a layer of warm air heated by the surface, rises and replaced by descending currents of cooler air. This circulation generates clouds and wind. And when we say clouds and wind, the weather of Earth is being done in this area, in the troposphere. So the thunderstorms, the cloudy, and the windy weathers of Earth can be occurs in this area or in this layer. The next layer is the stratosphere. So what is the stratosphere? It is the layer of the Earth's atmosphere. It is a region that extends to about 50 kilometers above the surface. It is cold and free of clouds, meaning around this area, weather does not occur. Also, in this area, we can see that airplanes fly beyond this area in the stratosphere. Since this area has no clouds, airplane can just glide through it without any disruption, or sometimes if bigger clouds from the troposphere comes around this area, the airplane does not get audited. Next is a tiny layer of the Earth's atmosphere called the ozone. So it is a layer of ozone near the top of the stratosphere. So ozone is a form of oxygen with 3 atoms per molecule instead of the usual 2 which we breathe in. So as you can see in the diagram here, the ozone layer is roughly around the stratosphere area. Another cool fact about the ozone layer helps absorb the reflect the ultraviolet light that comes from the sun, from the sun to Earth. So basically, the ozone layer protects us from extreme heat, and sadly, because of climate change, the ozone layer is currently getting thinner by the moment. But research states that the ozone layer is currently healing itself and is getting back to normal. So just like what we are experiencing right now, the extreme heat index and the temperature that we are experiencing now in the Philippines is caused by the thinning of the ozone layer. Next layer is the third layer of the atmosphere, which is the mesosphere. It is the third highest layer of the atmosphere and occupies the region above the stratosphere and below the thermosphere. So around the mesosphere area, meteors that enters the atmosphere of Earth is being dispersed or being broken down in this area. So basically, the mesosphere protects us from incoming outside objects from space. Next is the thermosphere. It is a layer of Earth's atmosphere that is directly above the mesosphere and below the exosphere. So, as you can see in the diagram again, in this area of the atmosphere, we can see the Kármán line. That is basically the start of our outer space. Around this area in the thermosphere also, we can see the man-made satellites that we made. The most common satellite that we can see that orbits around Earth is the International Space Station, or also known as ISS. Also, around this area, the auroras, Borealis and Aureolis, also occur in the thermosphere. Then lastly, the highest layer of the atmosphere, the exosphere. This includes the uppermost region of the Earth's atmosphere as it gradually fades into the vacuum of space. So it is around 310 to 620 miles above close to absolute zero. So spaceships that is traveling from Earth circumnavigates around this area. Okay. So at this juncture, let us talk about atmospheric composition and origin of our atmosphere. So as you can see in this pie graph, we can see the different chemicals or gases that inhibits or composes our atmosphere. So the most abundant gas in our atmosphere is nitrogen. You may believe or you may think that oxygen resides on our atmosphere, but it is mainly nitrogen. Next abundant gas of our atmosphere is the oxygen at 21%. Usually, oxygen only resides around the troposphere area, inhibiting 21% of the total mass of the atmosphere, while nitrogen can be observed or mostly abundant in the higher layers of the Earth. Next is, of course, the carbon dioxide at 0.4% and other gases comprising mostly of argon at 0.96% 1% of the total composition of the atmosphere. So now let us move on to the origin of our Earth's atmosphere and probably the oceans too. So there are three possible origins speculated by or theorized by our scientists. So the first possibility is that the atmosphere could have been formed with the rest of Earth as it accumulated from debris left over from the formation of the Sun. So during the formation of the Earth, the atmosphere gradually formed as the Earth accumulated into a big round ball. Number two, it could have been released from the interior through volcanic activity subsequent to the formation of Earth. So another possible theory that they have proposed is that the atmosphere was created by the interior of Earth through volcanoes. So all the gases that the volcano has distributed to outside of our interior created the atmosphere that we are currently having. Last but not least is it may have been derived from impacts by comets and asteroids from the outer parts of the solar system. Current evidence favors a combination of the interior and impact sources. So another theory that they have speculated is that the atmosphere we have right now comes from outer space. So the debris and comets that have hit Earth caused or brought to us the current composition of our atmosphere. So there are a lot of evidences that favors more to the second and the third possibilities why or the possibilities of origin of our atmosphere. And last but not least, we will talk about weather and climate. In our previous subject, we talked about weather and climate as weather, the circulation of the atmosphere. It is the state of the atmosphere at place and time as regards with heat, dryness, sunshine, wind, rain, etc. Basically, everyday's occurrences in the atmosphere is considered as the weather. It is only short term and it sometimes lasts around 1 to 2 weeks, roughly like that. So, climate, on the other hand, is a term used to refer to the effects of the atmosphere that last through decades and centuries. So basically, climate is long-term and weather is something that is short-term. There is a famous saying that we have right here that climate is what you expect and weather is what you get. So climate is usually around a large area, weather is usually localized or within a certain area. So that is all about the Earth's atmosphere. Now, that basically sums up our chapter, Earth as a planet.
Before we end this discussion, we actually have for you a take-home activity that will be presented next meeting. So I'll be dividing the class into 2 groups. Here will be group 1 and the other side will be group 2. So this is the scenario. You will be doing a debate tomorrow and each group will have their own stand. And here is the scenario. Farmers from Mayabon, Zamboanga, live on land that is owned by the government. They also farm around that area. However, the local government unit of Mayabon is urging the farmers to relocate into another area due to their community being located near a major fault line as announced by the people. So their area is potentially in a danger zone. The farmers are not okay with this decision, considering that their livelihood is found in that area and the relocation site is too far away from the land where they farm. So the 2 stands will be the farmers should relocate to another area, and the second stand is that the farmers should not relocate from the area. So for your assignment, you need to work with your group mates in your homes and list down or brainstorm the points that you will be defending for the debate next meeting. Okay, so is that clear, little earthlings?
Yes.
Okay. And for your assignment, you will be tasked to draw a diagram showing an example of the Earth's rift and subduction zones. And that should be drawn in a 1:4 illustration board. And I will give you a week for that task, okay? So you will have a lot of time to draw that because this will serve as your performance output in this semester. Is that clear with our claims?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And now let's reinforce our learning objectives. So at the end of the discussion, you are able to first describe the components of the Earth's interior and explain how scientists determine its structure. Secondly, differentiate between the Earth's various atmospheric layers, which was discussed by Mr. Ronald. Third is describe the chemical composition of our atmosphere. And fourth, your assignment to be submitted next week to create a diagram showing an example of Earth's rift and subduction zones on a 1/4 illustration board. And lastly, also your take-home activity, which is to advocate for environmental stewardship in proposing solutions for mitigating the risk associated with fault zones, subduction zones, and volcanoes. So I believe that everyone have understood that discussion. So is there any clarifications?
Not so far, sir.
Very good. All right. Thank you, little earthlings.
I am Teacher Ron.
I am Teacher JC,
And I am Teacher Rommel.
and we are all glad to be your teachers today.
Thank you very much.